Vex Karen would understand his mistake in 17 moves. By then, the wager would already be settled. In the softly lit officer's lounge of the TSV Patient Mind, Admiral Robert Greaves nursed a chipped coffee mug. Across the table, Korthic Tactician Vex Karen traced a clawed finger along the edge of a chessboard, his predatory eyes fixed on the human.
Admiral Greaves, this summit has been tedious. Let's make it interesting. A game of chess with a wager.
A wager? You want to bet on chess? What's the stake?
A small border outpost. Nothing strategic, just a token to make the game worth playing.
Greaves studied the alien across the table. 41 years of undefeated command. This was no friendly game.
He's testing me, or he thinks this is going to be easy. Fine, I accept. Which outpost did you have in mind?
The Cepheus 4 station. Agreed.
17 moves later, Vex Karen would realize his error. But by then, the wager had already been signed, and the chessboard had become a battlefield. 3 weeks earlier, in a wood-paneled room on Earth, Robert Greaves had spent his Saturday morning the way he always did, hunched over a chessboard, a chipped coffee mug at his elbow. No rank, no fleet, just 64 squares.
No politics here, just a problem that makes sense when you solve it.
But the opponent now seated across from him was not a club regular. Vex Karen was the most decorated tactical mind in the Korthic Imperium, 41 years of fleet command. Not a single defeat.
Humans are unpredictable, but the board is not. Pattern recognition always wins.
In the officer's lounge, the chess pieces now lay ready. Vex Karen leaned back, his blue skin catching the amber light, utterly at ease.
He's going to attack. I've seen his battle plans. He doesn't know how to play slow.
In my culture, Admiral, we don't play for nothing. But I suspect you already knew that.
I figured. Cepheus 4, right? Fine. Your move.
Vex Karen pushed a black pawn forward with a clawed finger, the sound sharp in the quiet room. The game had begun, and the Korthic Tactician already smelled victory. Greaves answered with a standard king's pawn opening. Plain, predictable, exactly what a Saturday club player would choose. The kind of move that wins no wars. But the wager itself had not been random. An hour before the summit, Evelyn Cross had intercepted Admiral Greaves in a quiet corridor. She pressed a folded slip of paper into his palm, her dark eyes never leaving his.
Admiral, you are going to be challenged to a game. When Vex Karen proposes a wager, accept, then name this outpost.
Cepheus 4. That's just a listening post on a dead rock. What's so special about it?
Let's just say operations has a reason. Don't ask questions you don't want answers to.
They're playing a bigger game. Always are. Fine. I can win a board.
He folded the note into his pocket. Neither he nor Vex Karen knew the real stakes yet. Now, back in the officer's lounge, the chessboard sat between them, each piece a lie about what was really being traded.
Cepheus 4. A rock with an antenna. Or so they said.
The game continued, move by move, but the real battle had been won long before anyone sat at the board. Vex Karen pushed his pieces forward like a fleet commander seizing a disputed system. Within 4 moves, he controlled the center, his black pawns and knights dominating the board.
Your defenses are weak, Admiral. You play like a man who's never faced a real opponent.
Greaves didn't answer. He simply slid a pawn 1 square forward, as if the board were a Sunday puzzle. By move 6, Vex Karen had already captured a pawn and forced the human into a cramped passive position. On move 8, a sharp knight fork took Greaves's bishop. The wooden piece clattered onto the captured pile with finality.
He's folding, just like all the rest. No endurance for a long war.
Greaves replied with a knight retreat to an unthreatening square, a move that looked like a beginner's blunder.
You should have studied my tactical record, human. I never leave an opening unexploited.
By move 10, Vex Karen was up 2 pawns and a bishop. His position was a fortress, while Greaves's pieces huddled on the back ranks.
Let him think he's winning. It makes the board quiet, and I like the quiet.
On move 12, Vex Karen unleashed a discovered attack. His knight slid aside, and his bishop suddenly pinned a white rook against the queen.
There. Even a novice should see that. Your rook is trapped, Admiral. Any response would just delay the inevitable.
Greaves looked at the board with the same expression he wore on Saturday mornings. Mild interest, nothing more. He didn't touch his rook. He just nudged a pawn forward instead. Vex Karen's clawed hand snatched the white rook with a crisp crack of wood on wood.
One more piece, and his defense collapses. He has no plan, just a man waiting to lose.
By move 14, Vex Karen had taken a commanding lead, up a queen, and 3 minor pieces by standard count. His position was a fortress. Greaves had lost nearly every major engagement.
In fleet command, we call this degraded combat effectiveness. In chess, I believe you just call it lost.
He thinks he's winning because he counts pieces. That's not how you win a war.
The silence between them stretched. Vex Karen leaned back, utterly convinced. Greaves simply waited, his face unreadable as stone. But the board was not what it seemed. In 7 more moves, Vex Karen would understand the shape of the trap he had walked into and the war he had already lost. Vex Karen pressed harder. A rook lift to an open file, a bishop cut to a long diagonal. All paths led to the white queen, exposed now at the edge of the board. His clawed fingers closed around the white queen, lifting it with theatrical slowness. The piece clinked onto the captured pile like a final judgment.
The queen, the most powerful piece on the board, and you let me take it without a fight.
A piece is just a piece. The board is still there.
Empty philosophy. Without a queen, his position is a corpse.
By move 15, the white position looked skeletal. A king, a few scattered pawns, and a lone rook standing guard.
Do you concede, Admiral? There's no shame in surrendering a lost battle.
Not yet. I'd like to see how it ends.
Vex Karen blinked at the response. The human wasn't broken, wasn't even anxious. Something in that stillness prickled, but the thought passed quickly. The board was a corpse, and Vex Karen was a predator who only knew how to count bodies. Greaves answered every capture with a quiet piece shift. A knight to the rim, a pawn forward. Nothing threatening.
That knight is useless on the edge. You are rearranging wreckage.
It's still on the board.
Another white pawn fell. Vex Karen's bishop swept the board like a cleanup operation. By move 16, white's pieces clustered on one side. His king stood exposed, but his rook had an open file.
He's given up on the center. Total collapse. This ends before move 20.
Greaves moved his king left into empty space, a retreat that looked like a fatal error.
Checkmate in 3. Your king is alone now.
But Greaves only adjusted a pawn. No attack. Just a shift that changed the board's geometry by inches. He had surrendered everything except the one asset Vex Karen never learned to count: position. On move 17, Greaves pulled his knight back to its original square. Ning 1, a retreat that chess databases call a waste of a tempo.
Your knight runs home like a wounded soldier. You have no attack left.
Vex Karen answered with a pawn thrust to d4, cracking open the center, daring Greaves to engage. Greaves declined the dare. He simply slid his bishop to b7, a move that threatened nothing.
He's paralyzed. Every piece is retreating. I'll finish this with a knight fork.
The board was a study in contrasts. Black's pieces coiled and aggressive, white's scattered in a passive shell. But one line had opened. Greaves's rook on a 1 now stared across the empty rank, a silent threat.
The board is closing in. He just doesn't see it yet.
Vex Karen deployed his knight to f5, a fork that would win the white rook if left unchallenged. The next move would be quiet enough to look like surrender, but it was the first nail in his coffin. Greaves moved his rook to an empty square, a quiet slide that didn't even register on Vex Karen's tactical radar.
You are giving me the entire board. Fine. Knight takes knight, and your defense crumbles.
His clawed hand snatched the white knight and slammed it onto the captured pile. Another piece gone.
The door is shut. He just doesn't know which door.
Greaves answered by pushing a pawn forward, a move so mundane it looked like a beginner passing time.
Nowhere left to run. This ends in 4 moves.
But the white rook on a8 now controlled the only open file, the one line that Vex Karen's pieces could not cross.
6 moves from now, he'll see it. By then, it'll be too late.
Vex Karen leaned back, already composing his victory speech in the silence. The trap was fully set. The game was no longer chess. It was a 19th century Zugzwang that Vex Karen had never studied. Vex Karen pushed his queen to c7, hoping to force a quick mate. Greaves answered with a bishop to c1, a move that seemed to abandon all defense. Vex Karen's 4-fingered hand hovered over his rook, but his eyes had changed.
Something is wrong. Every square is a trap.
At move 21, the board was a frozen sea. Black's army suffocated in its own space. For the first time in 41 years, Vex Karen felt the cold grip of a Zugzwang. Greaves didn't move. He just waited, his eyes holding the same calm as a Saturday morning.
Every move I have leads to defeat. He's taken all my options.
The human hadn't been playing the same game. He had been laying a trap older than Korthic's civilization. The next 3 moves were invisible to everyone but Greaves. Greaves slid his pawn forward 1 square. The soft click was the sound of a cage sealing shut.
My king has no heir. Every escape is mined. He saw this 10 moves ago.
The board was not a battlefield. It was a prison, and Vex Karen had built every wall himself.
Number. This is impossible. I control the center. I have more pieces. I should win.
But the white rook on a8 held the only open file, and Greaves's bishop on c1 pinned the king's last defender.
3 moves. He sees it now. The rest is just arithmetic.
Vex Karen's 4-fingered hand trembled above the board. Every legal move led to a forced checkmate in 3.
You traded everything just for this?
The human had not played to win pieces. He had played to win the war before the first casualty. The mate in 3 was inevitable. For the first time in 41 years, Vex Karen saw his own extinction drawn in black and white.
If I move the rook, the bishop takes the knight. If I move the knight, the rook slides to check. Every path is a dead end.
Greaves sat motionless, his face the same calm as the first minute of the game. He hadn't blinked in nearly 20 seconds.
He's not thinking. He's just waiting. He already knows the end.
The Korthic tactician's mind ran every permutation. Rook to f2, pawn takes, knight retreats. Bishop pins, mate in 3.
Numb. No, there must be a counter. Queen to b6? No, the rook pins the knight. King to h8, bishop to h6 wins.
One by one, the exits sealed.
41 years, undefeated, and I walked into a trap any Earth amateur could have set.
He's there. The moment a tactician realizes the war was already over before the first shot.
There is only 1 move left.
The greatest Korthic tactician reached for his king, the sound of wood scraping the board a surrender before the motion. Vex Karen's 4-fingered hand closed around the black king, lifted it, and tipped it onto its side. The wooden clatter echoed through the silent lounge like a gunshot.
I resign. You have defeated me, Admiral. I've never said those words in my entire career.
A game is just a game. The board doesn't care about reputations.
The diplomatic chamber's observation system recorded the result. On a wall screen, the treaty document updated, displaying the transfer of Cepheus 4 outpost to Earth jurisdiction with a soft, final chime.
He respects me. I just surrendered territory for a board game. What have I done?
It was never about the moves. Evelyn knew something I didn't, but it doesn't matter now.
Greaves rose from the table, buttoning his admiral's jacket. The formal session ceremony would be short, and he had no desire to linger. Vex Karen remained seated, staring at the tipped king lying among the captured pieces like a fallen soldier. The most decorated tactician in the Korthic Imperium had lost a chess match, but the war was already over, and he hadn't even been invited to the real battle. Within the hour, the diplomatic network transmitted the binding accord. Cepheus IV outpost was now Earth territory, and there was no renegotiation clause.
The Imperium will never forget this day, nor forgive me.
Admiral Greaves signed the final protocol with the same hand that had moved the quiet rook. No smirk, no victory speech.
Phase 1 complete. Now the real work begins.
Vex Karen refused to attend the formal closure. He stood alone on an observation deck, watching the human relief ship approach Cepheus IV on a screen. In an Earth command room, Evelyn Cross received the encrypted confirmation. The outpost contained a relay hub that was the nexus of Korthic battlefield coordination in the sector.
He played chess. We played the sector. Not his fault he didn't know the board extended past the table.
A game. Just a game. And I handed them a star system.
By the time Vex Karen boarded his shuttle, the session was complete. He had made an irreversible choice, and the consequences were still unfolding light years away. The game was over. The war had not yet begun, but the winner was already decided. Within 2 hours, an Earth engineering team docked at Cepheus IV. The transfer was tidy, clinical, no flags, no fanfare.
Access the primary relay node. Do not disturb the secondary arrays. We want everything intact.
The outpost's communication hub was a cold, sprawling lattice of transceivers and quantum relays, the single critical node for Korthic fleet coordination.
41 years of undefeated command, and he never asked why Cepheus IV was worth betting.
Technicians swapped encryption keys. The Korthic network map on a side screen flickered as the node went dark for foreign traffic.
Lockout all Korthic clearance. Route through our tactical network. They'll still see their ships, but they won't be able to talk to each other.
One by one, Korthic fleet channels fell silent. No alarms, no warning, just absence.
17 moves, on a board, and none of them realized the real checkmate was happening out here.
Earth fleet maintained position, silent. No transmission was made that could be intercepted. The game was played entirely on infrastructure.
Phase 2 is complete. Now we wait for the Korthic Admiralty to discover that their fleet just went blind.
In a quiet corridor of the summit station, away from the formal chambers, Vex Karen intercepted Admiral Greaves before he could vanish into the human delegation.
Admiral, one question. You are no Grand Master. Your record is unremarkable. How did you see a trap I couldn't?
It's just an old pattern. Russian masters called it the immortal zugzwang. You'd learn it in any Saturday chess club on Earth.
A pattern, not a strategy. Just a pattern from some Earth hobbyist's book.
I play on Saturdays. It's my hobby. You should try it. Helps with patience.
Vex Karen studied the human's face, searching for the lie, the hidden blade. He found only the same calm that had sat across the board for 24 moves.
You let me take your queen, your knight, your rook, to set a trap from a history book.
In chess, material doesn't matter. Only checkmate matters. Same in war, I suppose.
He really believes this was just a game, and he won anyway.
Without another word, Vex Karen turned and walked toward his shuttle, the weight of the day pressing on his shoulders. He had lost a war he never knew he was fighting. Within 4 days, the relay station at Cepheus IV went fully dark for Korthic military traffic. No warning, no signal degradation, just a clean, absolute silence. Across the sector, Korthic battle groups lost their tactical handshake. Ships that had moved in flawless formation for decades found themselves blind, deaf, and alone. On the Korthic flagship Chosen Fury, the command deck erupted into panicked shouts as every tactical screen dissolved into static.
And now it begins. Every Korthic warship in the sector just lost its eyes.
Within hours, Korthic command and control degraded across 80% of their border sector. A fleet of 28 capital ships had become a scattered collection of stranded metal. Korthic admirals demanded answers. No enemy had fired a shot. No cyber attack had been detected. The network simply no longer belonged to them.
They still haven't connected it to the chess game, just like we planned.
Emergency courier drones launched from every Korthic outpost. Their messages all the same. Fleet movements impossible. Request immediate renegotiation of Cepheus IV Accord.
They'll be informed that Earth honors its treaties and expects the same. No renegotiation.
The Korthic Imperium, the most feared military in the sector, was functionally blind, and all it had cost Earth was a Saturday chess club member and a 19th century trap. The Korthic High Command finally traced the blackout to Cepheus IV. The outpost they had given away housed the only relay that kept their fleet coordinated. An emergency diplomatic channel opened. The Korthic ambassador's crestfallen face filled the screen in the Earth delegation office. The Korthic ambassador formally requested the return of Cepheus IV, citing an unforeseeable strategic dependency.
The accord was a binding wager, freely made and publicly witnessed. Earth does not renegotiate treaties.
They made a bet. Now they want a refund. That's not how it works.
The Korthic ambassador pleaded for a sidebar negotiation, offering resource concessions.
Your fleet will remain blind until you accept the territorial status quo. That is the only answer.
The channel closed. In the command center, Evelyn Cross allowed herself a thin, satisfied smile. The Interstellar News Network broke the story. Earth wins border outpost in chess match. Korthic fleet communications crippled. The balance of power in the sector had shifted without a single shot, and the architect of that victory was a hobbyist who just wanted to go home and play a Saturday game. After the summit, Greaves found himself in a private briefing room, staring at a classified report he was never meant to see.
Cepheus IV wasn't just a listening post. It was the Korthic comm relay. She knew all along.
You wanted answers, Admiral. Here they are.
She displayed a tactical overlay on the wall screen, a star map with the Cepheus IV relay pulsing at the center of every Korthic fleet movement.
We identified Cepheus IV as the Korthic strategic linchpin 6 months ago. The chess game was the only way to acquire it without a war.
You used me. You knew Vex Karen would challenge me, and you told me what to bet. I was just a piece on your board.
You weren't a piece, Admiral. You were the player, and you played beautifully. We just made sure the stakes were real.
She pulled up a memo from 6 months prior. Operation Quiet Board. The plan was detailed. Provoke the chess challenge, bet on Cepheus IV, and let a hobbyist do the rest.
Operation Quiet Board. Even the name is a chess pun. They planned every move except mine.
The double bluff was complete. Greaves had won the chess game, but Evelyn Cross had won the war before the first piece moved. 6 months before the summit, in a windowless Earth intelligence office, Operation Quiet Board was born.
Cepheus IV is the Korthic comm nexus. If we control it, we blind their entire border fleet. But we can't take it by force.
On the screen, Vex Karen's profile appeared, undefeated, vain, and pathologically incapable of refusing a challenge.
He'll challenge any human with a rank. We'll provide one. An admiral who plays chess on Saturdays, Robert Greaves.
The planners had profiled hundreds of officers. Greaves was perfect, unremarkable, calm under pressure, and a member of a local chess club where the immortal Zugzwang was a popular study topic.
We don't need a grandmaster. We need someone Vex Karen will underestimate. The trap is just a bonus. Any club player would spot it if the game went long enough.
The final memo read, "Brief Greaves only on the outpost name. No strategic context. Let the game unfold naturally. He must believe it's just a friendly wager."
They didn't know I'd use the immortal. They just knew I'd play chess. The rest was just Saturdays.
The greatest military victory of the decade had depended on one man doing exactly what he did every Saturday morning, and Vex Karen would never know that his undefeated career ended, because a man from Earth just wanted a quiet game. A week later, Robert Greaves was back at his Saturday chess club. The board was set, coffee steaming, the wall screen scrolled, the galactic news, Earth wins border outpost in chess match, Korthic fleet communications collapse.
All that from a quiet rook move. The board was never just 64 squares.
He moved a pawn forward and shook his head slowly.
They'll study this game for a century, and I just wanted to see if the trap still worked.
The news cut to a human admiral calling the match a cultural exchange. No mention of the relay.
They'll never know it was just a Saturday, just a game.
Not a single shot had been fired across the entire sector. The Korthic fleet would take years to recover. Vex Karen would never understand what went wrong. But on Saturday mornings, Robert Greaves still played chess. The board didn't ask why. 6 months later, a thin volume titled "The Game I Didn't Know I Was Playing" appeared in bookstore windows across the Korthic Imperium. The author was Vex Karen. Within a year, it became required reading at every alien military academy. The introduction read, "I lost an entire fleet because I didn't understand the board was bigger than I was. Earth chess clubs saw an unprecedented influx of alien tourists. They came to study the patterns that had toppled a fleet." Greaves watched from his usual table as a young Korthic sat down across from a club regular, setting up a board with trembling hands.
He's nervous, just like Vex Karen was. Only difference is this one came to learn, not to win.
Vex Karen himself never beat a human again. He played in every tournament, studied every pattern, but the calm of a Saturday player always outpaced him. The line outside the Earth Chess Club stretched around the block. Pale blue Korthic, feathered Juth, and dozens of others, all waiting for a lesson. At the heart of the club, a single board remained set in the exact zugzwang position from the match. New students studied it like a museum piece, and around it, human, Korthic, and a dozen other raced hands hovered, tracing the quiet rook move that had ended a war without a shot. On Saturdays, Robert Greaves still played. The board never asked why.